enforcement agencies have been particularly hard hit of this latest news that one of their own has lost their lives to COVID-19. What we know about that individual is that they were a gendarme, 51 years old, and that as soon as they felt ill, they were placed into self-confinement. But unfortunately, the condition worsened on Wednesday, and before the gendarme, who's only been named as Patrick G in the French media, could reach the hospital, he had passed away. Now, that latest development has ratcheted up the threats from police unions that unless they are given that protective gear that they need, that they will stop enforcing the lockdown. This is what the unions had to say in a joint statement to the Ministry of Interior.
The Interunion is issuing a solemn warning to the minister. If the means of protection are lacking, police officers will only carry out urgent missions and will no longer enforce the lockdown.
Well, the lockdown in France has been going on since March 17th, and since that, around 100,000 fines have been given out by the police officers and gendarmes across the country. There are around 100,000 who've been deployed to do just that, but they have been angry now since the beginning of that lockdown over fears of the lack of protective masks that they've had. Many police unions have talked about the fact not just that they fear because they're coming into contact with so many people to issue these fines, to check the permission slips that we need to be out on the streets in France, that they could be liable to catch the virus, but also then could be a vector of transmission. So this is something that's really been concerning the unions since the start. Now, the Ministry of Interior has infuriated police officers and the unions even further in the last few days after it requisitioned the FFP2 masks. These are the highly protective masks, took them away and said the police officers had to give them to the health workers. Now, we've been talking to one police union in the last week about some of the fears that they have for their members.
Security officers, police and other people who uphold law and order in the country need to be protected. This virus does not distinguish between police, medics and other citizens. We are not even sure that we police officers are not potentially infecting people when we do our checks. So we need masks and other protective equipment to keep us safe and others.
Well, Laurent Nunez, who is the junior Interior Minister, says that the government policy is to pass those highly protective masks on to the health workers, and that they are working to provide the police with other masks and are working on alternatives for the situation. But this lack of masks isn't just a problem for the police. It's been described by one nursing union here in France as akin to a state scandal, and that's because France doesn't have enough masks for its emergency workers. And this is just the latest headache for the French government. In the last few days, we also know that a group of medics filed a complaint of negligence against top officials here in France. That includes the Prime Minister, Edouard Philippe, saying that they didn't do enough to avert the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic here in France. And this comes, of course, as France is trying to battle against COVID-19, as the numbers of infected and the numbers of those who have apparently died from COVID-19 continue to rise.